Okay, next installation of our serial killer profiles. Today we are going to focus on Rodney James Alcala, aka the dating game killer. So, Rodney James Alcala, born in 1943, is a convicted serial killer who was sentenced to death in California in 2010 for 5 murders committed between 1977 and 1979. Alcala is thought to be responsible for others. He is sometimes labeled the dating game killer due to his 1978 appearance on the American television show The Dating Game during the exact time of his murder spree. Alcala is also notable for exceptional demonstrations of cruelty. Prosecutors say he toyed with his victims, strangling them until they lost consciousness, then waiting until they revived, sometimes repeating this process several times before finally killing them. Investigators have found a collection of hundreds of photos of women and teenagers photographed by Alcala, and speculate that he could be responsible for numerous unsolved murders in California. He's also a suspect in at least 2 unsolved murders in New York. Authorities have compared him to Ted Bundy in how he used a smile and easy demeanor to attract women. And, like Bundy, experts fear that as evidence continues to mount, Alcala may prove to be one of the most prolific serial killers in American history because all of his victims have not yet been found. Alcala was born Rodrigo Jacques Alcala Bucor in San Antonio, Texas, to Raul Alcala Bucor and Ana Marie Gutierrez. He and his sisters were raised by his mother in suburban Los Angeles. Rodney joined the United States Army in 1960, where he served as a clerk. In 1964, after what was described as a nervous breakdown, he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder by a military psychiatrist and discharged on medical grounds. Alcala, who claims to have a genius-level IQ, graduated from UCLA School of Fine Arts after his medical discharge from the Army, and later attended New York University, where he studied film under Roman Polanski. New York officials have listed Alcala as the main suspect in the case of Ciro's nightclub heiress Ellen Jane Hover, murdered in 1977, while Alcala was working in New York as a security guard. He is also suspected in the murder of TWA flight attendant Cornelia Crilly, which occurred in 1971 while Alcala was enrolled at NYU. In 1977, despite having a criminal record and official registration as a sex offender, Alcala was hired as a typesetter by the Los Angeles Times in the midst of their coverage of the Hillside Strangler murders. During this period, Alcala convinced dozens of young women that he was a professional fashion photographer and photographed them for his portfolio. Most of those photos remain unidentified today, and police fear that some of the women in that portfolio may be additional victims of unsolved murders. In 1978, during the height of Alcala's murders, the unidentified killer was accepted as a contestant on The Dating Game, despite being a convicted criminal and registered sex offender. Host Jim Lange introduced him as a successful photographer who enjoys skydiving and motorcycling. Alcala won a date with bachelorette Cheryl Bradshaw, who later refused to go out with him, according to published reports, because she found him creepy. Jed Mills, an actor who sat next to Alcala on stage as Bachelor Number 2, later described him as a very strange guy with bizarre opinions. The third contestant, Armand Kiami, has never publicly commented about his interactions with Alcala. Not long after Alcala's game show appearance, the body of 12-year-old Robin Samso was discovered in the Los Angeles foothills. Friends of the young girl said they'd been approached by a man who fit Rodney's description through a composite sketch and who'd asked to take the group's photograph. Alcala was sought by police, arrested, and brought to trial, and received death sentences on 2 separate occasions. But because the jury was improperly informed about his criminal past as a sex offender, both verdicts were overturned. Alcala was brought in a 3rd time when his semen matched DNA samples taken from 2 separate unsolved crime scenes in Los Angeles. Furthermore, a pair of earrings found in Alcala's storage locker matched the DNA of a victim. This combined evidence finally proved to be his downfall. The DNA evidence eventually led to his conviction for the murders of 4 other female victims: Charlotte Lamb, age 31, Georgia Wickstead, 27, Jill Barcombe, 18, and originally thought to be a victim of the Hillside Strangler, and Jill Parenteau, age 21. Criminal profiler Pat Brown, noting that Alcala killed his youngest victim, Robin Samso, and at least 2 other women after his dating game appearance, speculated that Cheryl Bradshaw's rejection of him after the show ended might have been a factor for his next killings. One wonders what the rejection did in his mind, Brown said. That is something he would not take too well. Serial killers don't understand the process of rejection. Instead, they would think that something is wrong with the girl. She played me. She's playing hard to get, and she toyed with me. Alcala has been incarcerated since his 1979 arrest for Robin Samso's murder. While in prison, he has written You, the Jury, a 1994 book in which he asserts his innocence in the Samso case and points to a different suspect. He has also filed 2 lawsuits against the California penal system for a slip-and-fall claim, and for failing to provide him a low-fat diet. Alcala continues to maintain his innocence and currently remains on death row at San Quentin State Prison. In April 2010, the Huntington Beach Police Department made public 120 of Alcala's photographs in an effort to identify some of the women and determine if any could be additional victims. Anyone willing to provide information about any of the photos was asked to call the department. In the first few weeks, approximately 20 women had come forward to identify themselves, which still left 100 unidentified.